It's time for another deep dive. World building and coming up with the universe's history are two very important parts of story creation. They were also addressed in the community our Tumblr bookstore during our latest writing conference. Invites are very open, so it's as inclusive as an exclusive feature can be. But for now, since you're here, I figured it would be fun to talk about exposition. So let's begin. I love trying to map out exposition. This might sound weird. It might even sound scandalous. I mean, that's the stuff we hear reviewers complaining about because a character just said, as you know, then proceeded to exposition dump all over the place. Okay, well, yes, I don't like that in particular, but I still like making exposition. It's almost got a bad reputation now because of all the complaints that are being handled improperly. But if it's done right, it can be great. Besides, what's the alternative? A book with no exposition? Let's start by really looking at what exposition is, then see if we can agree with the idea of it all being bad. Exposition is described as a technique to reveal essential information to readers. Notice how quickly it just became a lot more important? This isn't just about stuff like, and that's why this particular apple tree only grows 5 Honeycrisp in a year. This is stuff like, this is why the super evil villain is hunting you down right now. You might want to run. Book worlds, like the real world, have pasts. In fact, I think it's good to address those. If we have no exposition at all, that means we're forced to only experience new information with the characters. Even less than that, because it can be assumed that they have experienced something between the ages of just born and their book age. So we're at a disadvantage here. It's also a pretty big presumption that literally nothing happened in a character's life that was important to right now. Sheesh. Just hurt their little feelings, why don't you? Mm-mm-mm. So yeah, exposition can be nice. Maybe a villain has a good, or bad, reason for being so evil. Maybe a hero got traumatized, and that's why they always shudder when a horse trots by. Sure will be fun to know. For me, I love it when a story has some depth, so having a history is crucial. Where's the depth if there's no foundation? It's like building a house. How can you build a strong one without a strong base? I feel like this humanizes characters and fleshes out worlds. Not to say that some people can't have uneventful youths, but I bet even the most couch potato of a person would say that at least one thing from their past had an impact on them. So then it's just about giving the information to the reader. First up is the one that everyone complains about. If you heard me mention, as you know, and thought, I actually don't know why that's an issue, I'll happily explain. Maybe too happily, but who can be sure? Essentially, this method lets the reader know something before it even says anything important. And that's that the characters already know this, as you know. If they know, what's the point of it being said? Oh, because the reader doesn't know. Yeah, that's a bit clunky. There are also times when this isn't used, but it's just exposition dumping. For instance, you'll have several paragraphs back to back where nothing is happening, but it's all that narration saying how these characters have loved each other since the incident of 1958. And it proceeds to tell you what the incident of 1958 is. Or maybe it's in a conversation where someone has to keep referring to someone else as a friend, or just otherwise talks in a way that feels unnatural. Bonnie, ever since we lost the bakery last summer because of that horde of angry termites, I've just been bummed. Bonnie, of course, being the partner in said bakery who was there for it all. Here are my tips for not doing this. First up, if you're inclined to have a lot of information in narration, think about a movie. If you're writing literary fiction, that's different. A totally separate list of techniques are in that genre, but I couldn't tell you what they are. For other forms of fiction, I like to imagine it in a movie, so it's like that quote-unquote narration in the text is actually being narrated. If it would sound nice, cool. Happy dance time. If not, less cool. But the happy dance can still happen. It just needs to be after some editing. Be honest with yourself. If you were learning this for the first time, would you be engaged or bored? Would it feel like someone was lecturing to you? I implore you to be truthful. Saying, it's great, just because it's your own story isn't going to help when the people who are reading this are no longer you. Writing dialogue, that, as you know, phrase is really easy to erase. So boom, problem solved there. That's so helpful. On a more serious note, clunky dialogue can be easier to avoid when you read it aloud. If it flows like a natural conversation, I'd say you're good. Just trust your instincts with that. There aren't hard rules with what works or what doesn't. Heck, even what I'm saying here can be taken with a grain of salt. This is only my opinion. Okay, well, the one section with the phrase does have other people backing it too, but you get what I mean. At the end of the day, put out the story that makes you proud. As usual, I want to give some books to help out if you're looking for examples. EchoSight, which is linked below, did a really good job of having a lot of world building without it feeling like I was getting whacked over the head with a giant textbook. And, ooh, what's that? Yeah, I couldn't leave out a self-promo. I'm admittedly biased, but I do think the info is handled pretty well in my trilogy, Changing Waters, also linked below. There's a lot of ground to cover, but you're learning about it with the characters. If you haven't yet, I hope you like, comment, and subscribe. Also, I hope you check out those books and the book community. I link that in the description too. See you next time.